If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born. But I don't feel like going into it, if you want to know the truth. These are the opening lines from one of literature's most iconic and, some might say, most infuriating voices, Holden Caulfield. He also, almost immediately, confesses, "I'm the most terrific liar you ever saw in your life." So, what happens when our guide through a story admits he can't be trusted? What truly lies beneath the surface of a character who sees phoniness everywhere, yet is deeply contradictory himself? Hello, and welcome back to Digital Page, the channel where we dive deep into the stories that shape our lives. Today, we're talking about one of the most beloved and debated books of all time, J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. Published in 1951, this book was a cultural earthquake, giving voice to a generation of disenchanted youth. It's a book that's been banned, celebrated, and analyzed for decades, but at its heart, it remains a simple, powerful story about a boy named Holden Caulfield trying to make sense of the world. His voice is so real, so immediate, that even today his struggles with authenticity and loss resonate with anyone who's ever felt like an outsider. So grab your favorite blanket and a cup of tea, because we're about to walk a few days in Holden's very complicated shoes. Our story begins in a kind of halfway house, where a 17-year-old Holden Caulfield is recounting a few mad days he had just before Christmas. Right away, he tells us something critical. He's the most terrific liar you ever saw in your life. So from the very beginning, we know we're getting a story that's filtered through his unique, often contradictory perspective. The immediate backdrop is Pencey Prep, a phony, elite boarding school in Pennsylvania, from which Holden is being expelled. He's not waiting around for his parents to find out, preferring to get the hell out of Pencey, right that same night. Before he leaves, he has a series of interactions that crystallize everything he hates about the world. First, there's his old history teacher, Mr. Spencer, a well-meaning man who, with the headmaster, tries to lecture Holden on how life is a game that one plays according to the rules. Holden's internal reaction is immediate. Game, my arse. Some game, 7. He sees the game as rigged, only for the hotshots. The final, humiliating straw is when Spencer reads aloud Holden's abysmal history essay. The essay, topped with Holden's honest note confessing his lack of interest, just underscores his disdain for the phony rules and expectations of the adult world. Back in his dorm, we meet two of Holden's foils. There's Ackley, a sloppy, pimply senior with a terrible personality, whom Holden finds irritating yet feels a peculiar pity for. And then there's Stradlater, his handsome roommate, a secret slob who's madly in love with himself. Stradlater, the hotshot, asks Holden to write a composition for him, an ironic request given Holden's own academic failures. The situation becomes tense when Stradlater mentions his date is Jane Gallagher. The name Jane Gallagher hits Holden like a bolt. She's a girl he knew from Maine, a pure and innocent memory in his mind. He remembers her playing checkers with him, how she would never move her kings from the back row. She just liked the way they looked when they were all in the back row. This image of protecting something precious and untouched is key. He also recalls her troubled home life, a memory that makes him deeply protective and anxious about Stradlater's intentions with her. This anxiety culminates in a physical fight where Holden, emotionally fragile and unable to express his fears, gets knocked to the floor 18. In a final act of frustration, he tears up the composition he wrote for Stradlater, a deeply personal piece about his deceased brother Allie's baseball mitt. Allie, a brilliant and kind boy who died of leukemia, is Holden's symbol of unspoiled innocence and the memory of him, with poems written in green ink all over his baseball mitt, is one of the few things Holden holds sacred. Feeling rotten and lonesome, Holden flees Pencey and heads to New York City. His New York Odyssey is a series of desperate attempts at connection that all fall flat. He lies to a woman on a train, pretending to be her son's friend and inventing stories of bravery to cover for the boy, whom he actually despises. He checks into a hotel teeming with perverts and morons. He hires a young prostitute, Sunny, but his deep-seated issues with intimacy and authenticity prevent him from going through with it. Instead, he awkwardly tries to talk to her, leading to a confrontation with her pimp, Maurice, that leaves Holden feeling more miserable than ever. A brief, beautiful interlude occurs when Holden meets two nuns at a breakfast bar. He genuinely respects their kindness and has an intelligent, unpretentious conversation with them about literature. This encounter shows us a side of Holden that desperately craves genuine connection, free from the social posturing he detests. But these moments are fleeting. A date with his old flame Sally Hayes, whom he quickly labels the queen of the phonies, culminates in a disastrous, self-sabotaging outburst. He impulsively asks her to run away with him, to live in a cabin by a brook. Her sensible rejection, pointing out they are practically children, triggers a fury in Holden that drives her away. His longing for an escape from his phony world is palpable, but his immaturity and inability to communicate authentically destroy the dream. Holden's tumultuous journey culminates in his decision to sneak home to see his younger sister, Phoebe, the one person in his life he truly adores and respects. She is only 10 years old, but is remarkably perceptive and sees right through his lies. In a deeply touching moment, she offers him all her Christmas money, and his profound sadness at his own failures makes him weep. It's to Phoebe that Holden finally articulates his famous dream, that he tells Phoebe he misunderstood a Robert Burns poem and pictures himself as the catcher in the rye. He imagines standing at the edge of a crazy cliff, catching children before they can fall off. This is the heart of the story. It's Holden's profound desire to protect innocence from the harsh realities of the world and the inevitable fall into corrupt adulthood. He wants to be a guardian, a savior, in a world that constantly disappoints him. Before leaving home again, Holden visits his former English teacher, Mr. Antolini. Mr. Antolini offers him a place to stay and, perhaps, the most profound advice in the book. He warns Holden about a terrible, terrible fall that awaits those who gave up looking for what their environment couldn't provide. He urges Holden to pursue knowledge and understand that he is not the first person who was ever confused and frightened and even sickened by human behavior. He shares a quote from a psychoanalyst. The mark of the immature man is that he wants to die nobly for a cause, while the mark of the mature man is that he wants to live humbly for one. This is a plea for Holden to find purpose within the flawed world, rather than trying to escape or destroy it. However, Holden's stay is cut short by a deeply unsettling moment when he wakes to find Mr. Antolini stroking his head, an act Holden interprets as a flitty pass and flees in a panic. Although he later questions his interpretation, the incident only serves to deepen his sense of isolation and his inability to trust genuine human connection. The story ends with Holden watching Phoebe on a carousel. As it starts to rain, he stays on the bench, getting soaked, but feeling a profound happiness as he watches her go around and around. The gold ring, which the other kids are reaching for, symbolizes the adult world of success and ambition. But Holden realizes that you can't stop kids from reaching for it. You just have to let them try. In that moment, he finds a flicker of peace, accepting that he can't save everyone, but he can, for a brief moment, simply be present. This book is far more than a simple story about a rebellious teenager. It's a deep, poignant look at the human condition. Here are a few key takeaways. The struggle for authenticity. Holden's constant battle against phoniness highlights the universal human desire to find real, unvarnished truth in a world that often demands conformity. He shows us that being true to yourself is a difficult, sometimes lonely, but ultimately necessary pursuit. The pain of growing up. Holden's journey is a powerful allegory for the loss of innocence. His dream of being the catcher in the rye is a poignant metaphor for his desperate desire to protect children from the pain of becoming adults. It reminds us that growing up is a beautiful, but also deeply painful process. The importance of connection. Holden's profound loneliness and his desperate, often misguided, attempts to connect with others, from the nuns to his sister Phoebe, underscore our fundamental need for authentic human connection. It's in these moments, particularly with Phoebe, that we see his true self emerge. For me, reading The Catcher in the Rye was a bit like looking in a cracked mirror. It wasn't always a pretty reflection, but it was honest. Holden isn't a hero, and he's not even a particularly good person sometimes. He's a mass of contradictions, a self-proclaimed liar who despises lies, an angry, cynical teenager who is deeply sensitive and prone to overwhelming loneliness and grief. That's what makes him so real. He's a powerful reminder that our flaws and contradictions are what make us human. His story is a powerful exploration of adolescent angst, the pain of growing up, the search for authenticity in a seemingly superficial world, and the enduring impact of loss. He's not a character we're supposed to like all the time, but he's a character we're supposed to understand. And in that understanding, we often find a little bit of ourselves. Now, I want to hear from you. Let's start a conversation in the comments below. Do you think Holden's hatred of phonies is a sign of immaturity, or is he actually more perceptive than the adults around him? The famous quote from Mr. Antolini suggests that maturity is about living humbly for a cause. What do you think Holden's cause truly is, and does he ever find a way to live for it? If Holden were alive today, how do you think his story would be different? Would social media be his biggest enemy, or would it be a tool he could use to connect with others? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into The Catcher in the Rye. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a fellow bookworm, and subscribe to Digital Page for more literary journeys. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Until next time, happy reading.